Jennifer Stolpa held her baby against her chest inside a shallow cave and listened for a sound that never came. Her husband had walked away into the snow to find help, and now she had no way to know whether he was still moving, lying somewhere in the open, or gone for good. Clayton was only 5 months old. He could not understand why his mother's body shook, or why every bit of warmth had to be fought for hour by hour. Jennifer could only pull him closer and keep him alive. The ordeal had begun as a family trip. James and Jennifer Stolpa were a young couple from the San Francisco Bay Area. James was 21, a private in the Army stationed at Camp Roberts. Jennifer was 20. Their son, Clayton, was still an infant. In late December 1992, they set out for Pocatello, Idaho for a funeral in James's family. They were not headed into the wilderness for adventure. They were trying to cross the West with a baby, and the belief they could still make it. The normal route was supposed to take them across Interstate 80, but storms had closed or blocked the roads they expected to use. Instead of turning back and waiting, they kept trying to work around the closures. They drove north through California, through Alturas and Cedarville, into remote country near the Nevada line. The farther they went, the fewer signs of travel remained. They eventually ended up on Washoe County Road 8A, a gravel road seldom used in winter. It ran through empty high desert near the ghost town of Villa, Nevada, far from regular traffic, phone service, and help. Drifts grew deeper. The road became harder to read. Then the pickup became stuck. At first, the truck was shelter. It had an aluminum shell, and it protected them from the worst exposure. They had some food with them, including fruitcake, cookies, Doritos, and vitamins, but not enough for a long emergency. They had clothing, a sleeping bag, and the belief that someone would come. But no one came. Their family reported them missing after they failed to arrive for the funeral. Searchers began looking, but the Stolpas had left the expected route. They were not where anyone first thought they should be. In that country, a truck could sit off a remote road for days without another vehicle passing. Inside the pickup, the situation worsened. Food ran low. Water became a problem. Cold worked through the metal and glass. Clayton still needed warmth and milk. Jennifer had to think not only about herself, but about the baby's body, his breathing, his skin, and whether he was staying warm enough. After days of waiting, James and Jennifer decided they had to leave the truck. It was dangerous, but staying had begun to feel like waiting to die. They bundled Clayton as well as they could and started walking, hoping to reach a better road or some sign of people. The walk was brutal almost immediately. They moved through deep snow with a baby, carrying what they could, trying to keep their direction. Every step took strength they could not replace. Their feet became wet and cold. Their food was nearly gone. The world ahead looked open, but every mile took too long. They walked for hours, then longer than hours. They followed what they believed might lead them toward help, and eventually found a shallow cave or rock shelter near Hell's Canyon in northern Washoe County. It was not comfortable. It was a place where a mother and child could get out of the open. By then, Jennifer's feet were badly damaged by cold, and Clayton needed protection more than ever. The family spent time together there, but James understood they might not all survive if they stayed. Jennifer and the baby could not make a long march. Clayton was too small. Jennifer was too injured. James could still walk, though barely. That left one terrifying choice. He would leave them in the cave and go alone. They did not know if they were saying goodbye. James promised he would get help. Jennifer had to believe him because there was no other plan left. He left her with Clayton, the sleeping bag, and the cave. Then he walked away into the snow. For Jennifer, the ordeal changed shape after that. When James was there, fear could be shared. Once he was gone, every decision was hers. She had to keep Clayton warm. She had to keep him fed. She had to stay awake enough to notice if he became too cold or too quiet. She had to protect him while her own body was failing. Her feet were frostbitten and painful. At times, she tried to warm them inside the sleeping bag, not knowing that warming and freezing them again could make the damage worse. She had no real food left. She had no water. Her breast milk began to fail as dehydration and hunger weakened her. When she could no longer nurse normally, she melted ice in her mouth and fed the liquid to Clayton. It was desperate, slow, and intimate, a mother giving her child what little her own body could still manage. The nights inside the cave were the worst. Jennifer heard coyotes howling nearby. The sound carried through the empty land. She could not run. She could not fight far. She could only hold the baby, listen, and wait. She later described the fear of being alone there, wondering whether she and Clayton would freeze first or starve. While Jennifer kept the baby alive, James was trying to reach help. He first made his way back to the truck, which took hours. He spent a night there, then followed the tire tracks west, fighting through snow and exhaustion. His feet were freezing. He was hungry, dehydrated, and losing control of his body. He walked toward Via because he believed people might be there. The route was punishing. He struggled through deep snow and open country, sometimes barely coherent. By the time he reached a road crew near Via on January 6th, he was in terrible condition. He had walked more than 40 miles, some later accounts saying close to 50, and he was desperate to make rescuers understand one thing. His wife and baby were still out there. He had reached people, but Jennifer and Clayton were not saved yet. James had to guide the rescue from memory, identifying terrain and landmarks so crews could find the cave. Snow tractors and rescuers pushed toward the area, while Jennifer waited with no proof that her husband had made it. Then she heard machinery. At first, she was not sure what it was. After days of silence, the sound felt impossible. Then it came closer. Jennifer realized that someone was coming. She was too injured to stand, so she waved and called from the mouth of the cave. Rescuers saw her. Clayton was alive in her arms. Clayton was in remarkably good condition. Jennifer and James were not. Both suffered frostbite and hypothermia. Their feet and toes had been badly damaged by cold. They were transported for medical care, and the story became national news. Doctors later treated the damage to James and Jennifer's feet. The injuries were serious, and both ultimately lost toes to frostbite. But Clayton, the infant at the center of Jennifer's fight in the cave, survived without serious injury. James had walked for help, but Jennifer had kept their son alive through the hours when no one knew whether rescue would come. The Stolpa's decisions were later studied and debated. They had made a dangerous choice by leaving the safer route and taking remote back roads in winter. But after that mistake, their survival choices helped save them. They stayed with the truck at first. When they left, they carried extra clothes and a sleeping bag. They found shelter. James left Jennifer and Clayton protected instead of forcing them farther through terrain they could not survive. For Jennifer, the story was pain, fear, hunger, and the pressure of keeping a baby warm while her own body failed. It was listening for coyotes in the dark. It was melting ice in her mouth because Clayton needed fluid. It was trusting that James would come back with help when every hour made that promise harder to believe. The family survived 8 days in the frozen isolation of northern Nevada because neither parent stopped fighting for Clayton. James walked until he found people. Jennifer stayed in the cave and kept their baby breathing. The world called it a miracle. But inside the cave, it was harder than that. It was a mother holding her child in the cold and refusing to let him slip away. Thank you for listening to Horrifying Survival Stories. Subscribe for more stories of those who faced the impossible and lived.